For me, the best rapper ever was Biggie. And that interesting looking building back there, about what, 28 years ago, when was he born? 97 he was killed, so 28 years ago, the Peterson Automotive Museum, that red building there, that's where he was gunned down outside of. And of course, that's a big, huge, long story, but it's so interesting and fascinating, even more so in terms of the storyline than Tupac, because we really don't have a good idea at all of what happened, of what led up to Biggie being killed. We really, at least in a Tupac, highly likely it has something to do with Orlando Anderson, right? Probably, I guess. But with Biggie's killing, many theories abound, and there's really no clear-cut lead. And I just want to briefly touch on something, because you watch enough of YouTube, there's a bunch of bullshit on YouTube, but there is some interesting stuff if you pay attention. I was talking about how now there's guys running YouTube channels from their jail cell, their prison vlogging. So I was saying, why watch a guy on No Jumper talk about being in the gang and what goes on in prison when you got people in prison making vlogs? And one of the guys I watch is a guy named Jay Hood.
He told you how me and my father never really dealt with each other growing up. So when I say he made me into the person I am today, I mean, he brought Islam into my life. He the reason I'm alive. It's my father. And he helps me. Period. That's what I'm gonna leave it at that. He helps me when I need help. I don't ask for too much of anything. I got my own money, but anytime I need advice or anything, he there. There's been times where I'm in the prison cell and he helped me bust a $30,000 plate. You feel me? You know, I've had you on the phone with my dad before all this that came out. So, you know how I feel about my father. That's my only parent I got left. So, I'm never gonna turn on my father, period. And you're absolutely right. I do tell my dad to stay out the streets. Stop commenting on street stuff. Stay in that gated community where you live at. You feel me? In the $1 million homes. Driving them $500,000 cars. You feel me? And that's the truth. I tell him that. But my father is my father.
Jay Hood is finishing out, I guess, a plea bargain for some homicides. He's in a gang from Stevenson Village, Crips, I think. His father is this guy named Stutterbox. Stutterbox, if you're into watching YouTube beef, was kind of briefly going back and forth with Wack 100.
I call Wack. My Rolls Royce gets shot up. My girl almost get killed. I lay on top of her. We make it up out of there. Wack see the bullet holes in my car the next day. He reaching out, trying to contact the nigga who supposed to be the boogeyman. I know where the nigga live at, behind my back. It's in the paperwork. All on wiretap. That's why your house got ready, you bitch ass nigga. You conspiracy to commit murder, nigga. You buster ass nigga. But let me tell you how it play out. I call cuz, like, cuz, it's 3 niggas sitting in front of your house, cuz. Is these your homies, Wack?
Stutterbox and Wack 100 lived in the same gated community because Stutterbox is rich. He's also someone that has to watch how he moves around because he infamously did some telling against members of his own gang, the Main Street Mafia Crips, when he attempted to possibly blackmail Shaquille O'Neal for a so-called sex tape. And of course, that's a whole nother big story. And I'm not in front of the Peterson to get into that. And people have covered it, and I will. But so, Stutterbox at this time already was rich. He was rolling around LA in a Rolls Royce or a Bentley. He was suspected of having overseen a massive $11 million check fraud scam. This is back in the late 90s. He's the guy, when you hear people call WAC 100 CS2, well, Stutterbox was CS1, for sure. For the Biggie case, okay, one of the theories is that Amir Muhammad killed him. And they show you that photo or a sketch of the guy dressed up like a Nation of Islam member in the bow tie. And so, and that's one of the main theories. He was driving a 96 Impala, and he assassinated Biggie on behalf of who? That's unclear. That part of the story. Was it death row? Because they say Amir Muhammad was the high school roommate of David Mack. David Mack is one of the crooked cops that worked for Death Row. That was also part of the Rampart scandal. I did a video on him, several that have had million views. I had to delete some, but one is still up in my members only section. I put a link. And Amir Muhammad, aka Harry Billups, who changed his name to Amir Muhammad when he became Muslim, was the college roommate of David Mack. David Mack, after the whole Death Row thing started dying down, he got, well, not really dying down, in maybe 1997 or 8, actually, when after Tupac was killed in 96, Biggie killed in 97, so maybe late in 97, David Mack and his girlfriend worked at a bank and let him come in and rob it. They got $720,000. David Mack did a long federal prison term. David Mack got stabbed by the 18th Streeters and the feds. I came across that and some prison guy doing a story about it. And David Mack is now out. The last we knew of David Mack, he was the driver for Harvey Weinstein's daughter. Interesting. So he's somewhere around in LA. I'd love to interview him. My daughter would be interviewed. But anyways, Amir Muhammad, Harry Billups, went and visited David Mack 10 days after David Mack was arrested for bank robbery. Oh, when you're in a moment of crisis, you might call out to have different friends come visit you. Doesn't mean Harry Billups doing anything illegal. Harry Billups, aka Amir Muhammad, now works as a real estate broker in Atlanta. He's been harassed by many documentaries and TV shows. I really don't think he had anything to do with it. But to get back to Jay Hood and Stutterbox, which is a whole big story of its own, Stutterbox versus Del Dog, Main Street Crip, Shaquille O'Neal extortion, Del Dog gets killed. Stutterbox was kidnapped, supposedly on the orders of Del Dog, one of the other leaders of the Main Street Mafia Crips.
So my father called the police and said somebody's trying to kidnap my niece. Whatever happened, happened. I don't know. I wasn't even around. I know what was going on. I'm just going off what my father told me. Nobody went to jail. My father was never, to my knowledge, never no confidential source. It was just a lot of snake stuff going on. Like my dad would pull up and then people call a dog, like, hey, box right here. Trying to get my father unalived. So he knocked on my dad's front door. My dad answered and shot my dad 6-7 times at his front doorstep. Another occasion, my dad is in his Rolls Royce. This is all prior to this. Somebody pull up and drop 30 inside the Rolls Royce. Luckily, it was bulletproof.
By 7 members, snatched off Sunset Strip of West Hollywood, taken back in the hood, beaten. You know, where's this tape? You're trying to extort Shaquille O'Neal. That's our guy. Why are you doing this to him? And Stutterbox calls his police handlers and told them what just happened. They say, go make a police report. This all ends up in the LA Times. It's on the front page. When it comes out, the Stutterbox has lied about various things and he's a paid informant for LAPD. All the charges are dropped. So no one went to jail because of Stutterbox, but of course he's labeled a snitch. And even Jay Hood was talking about on his thing, yeah, I don't agree with what my father done, but that's my father and I love him. And if you talk, you try to bother him when I'm around, you're gonna be a loving memory, he said, which is pretty clever. But who might actually be Amir Muhammad? And I'm not saying this is true, but this is out of Greg Kading's book. And Greg Kading, you got to take with a grain of salt, but in this particular instance, he has evidence because he has the photo of his ID. Stutterbox, who would used to tell people he was Louis Farrakhan's son, but he was definitely in the Nation of Islam. And Stutterbox, I mean, does he look like the guy in the drawing? Does Harry Billets look like the guy in the drawing? Stutterbox had an ID calling himself Amir Muhammad. Stutterbox is a serious criminal. Stutterbox moved in the circles, at least at one time, of heavy criminality. Stutterbox knew Wack 100, who obviously knew Suge Knight. Now, I'm not saying Wack 100 has something to do with the Biggie murder. That all happened before Wack 100 was around. But I'm just saying it shows, he's moving in those same kind of gang circles of older gang guys that are doing other serious crimes and making serious money. So Stutterbox had the alias name Amir Muhammad. He has this ID Amir Muhammad. If someone dressed up like a Nation of Islam member to gun down Biggie, perhaps it was this guy. Stutterbox has a flair for getting himself mixed up in big deal stuff. He had already hit a lick with the checks. He was trying to extort Shaq. He got himself on the front page of the LA Times for trying to turn people in for murder. Now, the whole Amir Muhammad, though, story has to be taken with the slight asterisk because, but mind you, an asterisk, it doesn't mean it's not true. If you followed this case, if you watched any of the documentaries, you've heard of Psycho Mike. Psycho Mike is a police snitch. He started giving the police information from prison. He's the one who said he heard it was a Muslim name, and then Russell Poole looked at different names and then saw that a guy named Amir Muhammad visited David Mack, and then he showed Psycho Mike the sketch and said, oh, is this who you saw? Is this Amir Muhammad? He said, yes. But could Psycho Mike have been moving in circles with people where he would have heard about hits and he would have heard the name Amir Muhammad and it was Stutterbox? Maybe. I will say this, though. Psycho Mike, and I'm going to put the full story here at the end. Psycho Mike, this is why people and defense attorneys are able to pick apart snitches and informants so much. Because they're often totally compromised. They lie, they're crazy people. Psycho Mike met the police by writing them a letter, maybe in the early 90s or something, purporting to have information about an unsolved crime that was of very high interest to the LA Sheriff's Department because it concerned the murder of an LA sheriff. In 1985, there was an LA sheriff getting off work, and he gets into it downtown at the jail. I guess he was a jail guard. He gets off, he gets into his van, and someone is in the van waiting, hiding, and pops out on him while they're driving on the freeway. They fight. He shotguns the LA sheriff, jumps out of the van and runs across the freeway, flees, gets away. This crime was unsolved for a long, long time. And Psycho Mike, before he was so-called snitching in the Biggie case, he wrote a letter to the LA sheriff saying that he knew who killed that sheriff, that it was the Black Gorilla family, which is a favorite target of police claiming all these conspiracies, Black Guerrilla family is going to take over the streets. He said the Black Guerrilla family did it as retaliation. So this led to further sanctions and police looking at the you'll read about the Black Guerrilla family as attacking law enforcement on the outside. Now, I don't know if they have attacked any other law enforcement on the outside, but they didn't kill that sheriff because that case was solved a couple years ago. It, in fact, was a lover's quarrel. Another sheriff, another middle-aged white guy they were dating the same woman, and that guy hid in the van and killed him and got away. And a few years ago, the police were finally closing in on him, and that guy flung himself off a cliff, I think in Washington State. So the spokes of these cases contain all sorts of crazy people and other stories, and this is why conspiracy theories are so easy for a smart person to put together. Notice I say conspiracy theory, not the truth. Someone like Alex Jones or all these people that write conspiracy books, me, you give me a big pile of information, I can write you 8 different stories that all sound believable. It's like being on the debate team, right? We're going to each get the same set of facts, and we have to persuasively argue 2 different outcomes or correct answers. But yeah, I was driving fast to Peterson where Biggie lost his life here in this very busy area. This is the museum area. They just built the beautiful Academy of Museum of Motion Pictures. Across the street there. The LA County Museum of Art is nearby. Whoever did a hit around here, this is not the hood by a long shot, but LA's a big place. You can get away with stuff, blend into traffic. Anyway, so I thought that was interesting. Stutterbox is a fascinating character of LA streets. Hit $11 million lick. He still rides around, I guess, in a Rolls. He still got money, lives in a gated community next to WAC 100. He briefly got on the internet and went back and forth for WAC, but he stopped. He keeps a low profile. He had an ID that said Amir Muhammad, but is Amir Muhammad even real, or is that just a fiction of Psycho Mike? Because he told many fictions, but he did successfully snitch on a few cases over the years for the police. The Psycho Mike lost his life to AK-47 blast while standing outside the infamous Nickerson Gardens public housing project, which you'll hear people point to as, oh, see, as part of the conspiracy, they gunned him down because he was telling the truth. But anyone that's really from LA or been moving around in LA knows that unfortunately standing around the Nickerson Gardens public housing project too much, you might catch a bullet for any variety of reasons, and not because you told some secrets in public about the LAPD or the Tupac murder. But who knows? An interesting piece of LA history. American Dope, how proud.